So you're building a high-end gaming rig and you just can't settle on a CPU. Should you get an Intel Core i7 model or maybe an Intel Core i9? 9 is more than 7, so does this mean you'll get better gaming performance if you cough up the extra cash needed for this behemoth of a CPU? If these are the types of questions that are bugging you, then you've come to the right place. Over the course of this video, we'll look at what exactly each of these CPUs brings to the table so that we can answer what the optimal option is for gaming. So without any further ado, let's begin. As always, the first things you'll notice when making comparisons are some key specs. And the specs that usually stand out the most are the core counts and the clock speeds. Now, the core counts may look a bit confusing at first, since both the i7 and the i9 CPUs have the identical number of cores, 8. What's more, their clock speeds both generally tend to be somewhere between 3 and 3.6 GHz. But their price tags sure aren't similar. So what gives? Well, there is one key distinction between the two. The 8 cores on the i9 CPUs are hyper-threaded. This means that even though there are 8 physical cores, each of them can function as 2 logical cores. So you essentially get 16 cores worth of performance. These are definitely some pretty crazy specs for gaming, but are they worth it? Well, here's the thing. In order for a game to utilize multiple CPU cores, it has to be programmed to do so, and not all games get this treatment to the same degree. So it all depends on which types of games you're interested in playing. Modern AAA titles generally get to reap the full benefits of multiple CPU cores, but even still, at least a few of the 8 cores that the i7 offers will be unused most of the time. So unless you have your sights set on VR or multiple GPU builds, you won't really have any need for the high core counts that even the i7 CPUs offer, let alone the i9 CPUs. Of course, this is all based on the premise that you're building a gaming PC that will be used first and foremost for just that, gaming. If on the other hand you plan to make use of some professional software like Adobe Photoshop or Adobe Premiere, then by all means get an i7. It's not a bad CPU for gaming, it's just that it's a mild overkill even for some high-end builds. Modern games tend to be GPU-centric, so you should make the GPU your first priority. If you don't have any need for the larger core count of an i7, then buying an i5 CPU will end up leaving more room in your budget for a better GPU. Now, we're aware that this line of thinking tends to attract naysayers foretelling the doom of your gaming rig at the hands of bottlenecking. So let's address this issue. The GPU, like all other PC components, receives direct orders from the CPU. So your CPU does, in fact, dictate how fast your GPU can work. If you have an overpowered GPU and an outdated CPU, then yeah, your GPU won't be able to work to its maximum potential because you'll have to stick to the CPU's pace. But here's the thing, you don't need an overpowered CPU in order to get the most out of an overpowered GPU. And even more importantly, it's no big deal if your PC suffers from a small dose of bottlenecking. It's not an all or nothing situation. For example, you can comfortably pair an i5 CPU with an RTX 2080 and it would yield better in-game performance than an i5 paired with an RTX 2070, even though there's some bottlenecking in the former example and none in the latter. So unless you're planning on getting something along the lines of an RTX 2080 Ti, you may want to consider just getting an i5 and redirecting the extra cash towards a better GPU. If you aren't sure what the power balance between a CPU and a GPU is, we suggest using one of the many bottlenecking calculators like the one we've left for you in the description. The results will by no means be 100% accurate, but they should give you a nice estimate as to how compatible the two pieces of hardware will be. Now, you might be upset because we've hardly even mentioned anything about the i5 CPUs despite them being in the title, so we'll say this now. i9 CPUs are not for gaming, period. An i7 may be a bit of an overkill for most people, but it does have a rightful place in the gaming ecosystem. The most high-end PCs will hardly be content to settle with an i5, while VR gaming machines pretty much require them if you're looking to give the technology anything more than a test run. But the benefits of an i9 CPU are simply lost on gaming. They don't do anything besides drive up the overall cost of the PC. Hell, some of the i9 CPUs don't even use the standard LGA 1151 socket and can cost more than a whole high-end PC. So this isn't a clickbait, we promise. One of the points we wanted to make in this video is this: don't waste your money on an i9 CPU if all you'll want to do is game. And that about does it for this video. As always, we hope you've enjoyed it. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you did, and consider sharing this video with your friends if you think they could benefit from it. Also, make sure to click on the bell icon in case you don't want to miss any new videos like this one. With this video, we've covered all the Intel i-series matchups, but cool new videos are on their way, so stay tuned. In the meantime, may your games be fun and your losses few. And as always, we'll see you next time on Gaming Scan.